Tel Aviv, Israel. Nicknamed the Bubble, it is a culturally vibrant, politically moderate, and forward-thinking haven in a region of constant turmoil. This is because the city relies on the joie de vivre of its youth. It is a mere 100 years old. Its sister city, Jaffa, on the other hand, dates back 4,000 years and is the historical center of the region.
Jaffa is so old, it's even mentioned in the Bible and in Greek mythology.
Even though Tel Aviv is young, it also has its own cultural riches. The White City contains the most Bauhaus buildings in the world and has been declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
We want to create a place in which people are welcome, in which people are feeling as if they come into a private space which tries to give them the best possible time.
Tel Aviv is predominantly Jewish, but Arabs and other cultural groups exist here together in surprising harmony. Not a simple task, considering the political and religious realities that set the tone in the rest of the country.
If you ask any Israeli or Arab, will there be another war? 98% will say yes, of course.
With this in mind, Tel Avivians have no time to waste, and they live every moment to its fullest, right into the wee hours of the morning. Jerusalem native Nat Moran has always been fascinated by Tel Aviv. His doctoral studies were focused on how the city's urban design evolved over the last century.
It's a young city, about 100 years old, and it's a very young town. People are young here.
Yeah, I would say it's an old new city. I mean, it's a new city. It's 100 years old, which is nothing compared to to historical cities in the world, compared to Jerusalem, which has a history of 3,000 years. But 100 years is also a lifespan. We're sitting in front of the old city hall of Tel Aviv, where the municipality of Tel Aviv sat in the 20s, 30s. This is the place where everything happened from the 1920s onwards. In 1909, as I said, Tel Aviv was established. It wasn't really a city at the time, it was just one neighborhood called Achuzat Bait. It was the first Jewish neighborhood outside of the old city of Jaffa, which was an Arab city by majority. In 1921, Tel Aviv was declared an autonomous township. It was still not really an independent city. It was still under the governance of Jaffa as the city of the region.
Tel Aviv was created from a desire for a modern yet strictly Jewish community. It was an immediate success. By 1934, the population exploded from 60 initial families to 150,000 people. The British government, who was in charge of the territory at the time, officially declared it a city.
Was Tel Aviv built as a bourgeois city?
Bourgeois built Tel Aviv, at least in the beginning. It was definitely a private bourgeois initiative. It was a city of private capital, private money, of small homeowners, each buying his plot of land, building a small apartment building where he could perhaps live, but also rent out a few apartments and provide for himself. And you might have seen it earlier today while you were walking around the city. It's really a city of small bourgeois apartment buildings. At least the city of the 1920s, 1930s. Bialik Street is a good example. You have some fine examples of bourgeois residences changing in style from the eclectic style of the 1920s to the more modernist, international style of the 1930s and onwards. I think it's really important to understand that Tel Aviv was conceived and was meant to be the first Hebrew city in the world, meaning the first city where people would actually speak Hebrew on the street and in their everyday life. The Jews in the diaspora in Europe usually either spoke, the language of the land or Yiddish between them. And Tel Aviv, from its very beginning, was meant to be a city where people would use Hebrew every day on the street for shopping, negotiating, business, culture.
To encourage the integration of Hebrew into daily life, the city's mayor asked Hebrew poet Chaim Nachman Bialik to move to Tel Aviv.
Actually, they offered him this house just in front of the municipality.
I wouldn't say no.
Yeah, and he didn't say no as well. It's very symbolic. You have these two ideas in one small square. The fact that Tel Aviv should be its own city, independent in a political sense, but also would be the home for a new modern Hebrew culture. And Bialik was really like a symbol of the city.
Bialik wasn't the only person brought to the city to help in its development. In 1925, biologist Sir Patrick Geddes was invited to Tel Aviv to help manage the city's rapid growth. He mapped out a plan for its urban development.
Patrick Geddes created a plan for a garden city of 100,000 residents. And he brought along some very, very unique ideas of what this city should be like. First of all, in terms of the importance of gardens and greenery.
Garden cities are usually built in the suburbs, but Geddes wished to bring green into the heart of the city. So he drew up plans for a community garden in the center of each city block, proposing a very English way of life for the Tel Avivians.
He had this idea of country living. So tennis was one example, but really those places marked as tennis courts in his plan were meant to be communal gardens. And he thought that gardening was a highly educational process as well, that people of the city would become better citizens through gardening and through enjoying their leisure time in the quiet gardens that he provided for them.
Playing tennis on grass with a little bit of lemonade.
Yeah,
on the
exactly.
side.
But plans on paper don't always work in reality, especially when the communities they are made for have more pressing concerns.
When the State of Israel was created, the city of Jaffa and Tel Aviv fusioned. How do they cohabitate today?
Well, that fusion was in itself very, very difficult, or one might say even tragic, because Jaffa continued to be an Arab city, a Palestinian city, until 1948. It was the biggest Palestinian city in the country. And Tel Aviv, grew by its side. It began as a small suburb of Jaffa. It continued to be the major city in the area, overpassing Jaffa, becoming the bigger city, the more powerful city in economic terms, also in political terms. And in 1948, when the war, what we call the War of Independence, broke out, you could say that Tel Aviv came back and conquered Jaffa. Jaffa ceased to be an Arabic city after the war. Most of its residents fled, or some were deported. And so there was like a ghost town at the south border of Tel Aviv. Jaffa was annexed into Tel Aviv in 1950. By that time, it already had dozens of thousands of immigrants who arrived in the late 40s and early 50s and actually inhabited the city of Jaffa, the old houses that were found there to be standing empty. So yes, the story of how Tel Aviv and Jaffa came to be one city is part of the bigger story of how Israel came to be as a state and the war of 1948 with all its consequences. It was a big victory for the Israeli side and a big historic defeat for the Palestinian side. And it's something that is staying with us until today. There is still no solution.
These obstacles did not stand in the way of Tel Aviv's prosperity and growth. And that growth happened in a very particular way. To understand more about how the city took on its present form and why it is called the White City, architect Catherine Rochant meets me on the beach between Jaffa and Tel Aviv.
Let's pretend we're in 1880. So there was nothing here. There were dunes everywhere between Jaffa and the Yarkon River, north of what is now Tel Aviv. There were 5 villages and the Arab city of Jaffa. Jump forward to 1919. There are Arab cities, but no real modern cities. The British want to restore the old city of Jerusalem and create new neighborhoods outside the cities. One of these is to be outside Jaffa. Patrick Geddes comes here on the beach and draws a plan in the sand. Here we have Jaffa. When the walls of Jaffa are destroyed, new neighborhoods emerge. Then the first Jewish neighborhoods were created, Neve Tzedek and Neve Shalom. That's 1887 and 1890. So we have this first planned Jewish neighborhood, completely Jewish, called Ahuzat Beit. That will become Tel Aviv in 1910. Then, in 1921, Tel Aviv becomes an independent municipality after the Arab riots. Patrick Geddes' plan is to move the old center of Tel Aviv, which is here, and place it here. This will become Dizengoff Square. From that point on, the city will turn away from its mother city and will look to the north. They'll eventually become separate entities.
All right, so we understand the plan. But can we find its expression in the city itself?
We're now in Neve Tzedek. Here, we can see the Magen Davids, the Jewish emblem on the doors. In the Muslim homes, the entrance hall turns so that from the street, you can't see the yard where the women are. In the Jewish homes, which look the same, the hall is straight because there are no privacy issues. You can also look at the balconies. In the richer Maghreb Jewish houses, there are balconies. The Muslim houses, closed off and looking inward, have no balconies. This is a good example of what was called eclectic architecture, which was a quest for a new style. They were sometimes called dream houses because they were all painted in different colors. This house was built in the 1930s and belonged to Mayor Dizengoff. At the time, the idea was to do without ornamentation, fantasy, and individualism. The architects wanted to create a new, cleaner, and lighter architecture. It was actually described as an architecture of abstinence. After searching for a definite style, Tel Aviv finally found it in the 30s, the international style. It's the modern architecture of the time, what we now call the Bauhaus style. It was adopted by all the young architects that came from Germany, Austria, Belgium, Poland, the Ukraine, and Russia. Now we're in the heart of the Bauhaus Tel Aviv, with buildings like this one, that have suffered a lot, but that represent an interesting element of the local architecture. We no longer have long windows, as they've been replaced by long balconies. They also have glass walls that prevent the neighbors from looking in.
Time may have faded some of the luster, but these buildings were originally covered in bright white plaster, hence the nickname, the White City.
Bauhaus put forth the idea that all trades had to be involved in the construction of a building. Each building is different, unique. An important thing to keep in mind is that all the Jews that fled their country because things were going sour in Germany, those with money, weren't allowed to leave with their money. It explains everything. They brought construction materials, steel for their buildings. In a way, the Nazis actually missed the opportunity of being the origin and home of this type of architecture, this art. But there was more. In most European countries, there was no more room to build whole cities in a new style. You could build a house here, a neighborhood there, but a whole city, there was just no room for that. Getting here was like a dream. Le Corbusier explained it was like starting with a clean slate. The immigrants, the Zionist settlers, started over when they got here, so they built a whole new city. They needed room.
Tel Aviv still distinguishes itself from the rest of Israel by its unique urban initiatives. Investing in beautiful public spaces, such as the revitalization project of the port, is probably the best example. Its organic shapes mimic the mythical dunes that once stood here.
So I heard that 1/3 of Israelis say this is their favorite spot in Israel, and you built this. You're the architect.
One of the reasons that this project became very important in Israel is because we were in a way pioneer, not only us as architects, but also the port management, that they went for such a project, because in Israel, public spaces are not very, you don't invest much in them because the public wouldn't appreciate it, and vandalism, and in a way, our aim in this project was that we want to create a place in which people are welcome, in which people are feeling as if they come into a private space which tries to give them the best possible time. When we finished the project, we realized that people really appreciate it, and they don't throw chewing gums on the, unlike other places. This used to be a port. So this is the original wall of the deck. The ships were coming, standing there, and this crane are the sort of two original things that were left from the time that it was an actually active port.
I heard a story that in Yaffo, there was a strike or an embargo, and that was the reason that the idea developed to make a port here in Tel Aviv.
There was only one port to Tel Aviv, which was the Jaffa port, or to this area. It wasn't still a city of Tel Aviv-Yafo as it today. And then the sort of Jewish community here decided that they can't rely on the Arab port in Jaffa for all the relationship with the outside world, really. And then they decided to build this port. It's a very sort of mythological, mythified story in the history of Tel Aviv and Israel, that how people that didn't understand anything in building, nothing in ports, they all came from, or mostly came from Europe, and were not builders at all. But in 1 year, everyone was volunteering, and they actually made this port.
Oddly enough, the port engineers neglected to factor in one key element: the currents. The port was abandoned in 1965, and the coast began to erode.
The port of Tel Aviv was a place you didn't go to. I mean, the port of Tel Aviv was a sort of rundown zone at the north end of Tel Aviv. Beside two restaurants, there was nothing. And the two restaurants, that one of them is actually a very famous and good restaurant. It has its curtains to the west, to the sea, were closed because they didn't want to see all the rubbish here.
The sorry state of the abandoned port area didn't help bring the locals close to the water. But their link to the sea is both unbreakable and historic.
The city was not facing the sea. The sea was blocked from, and wasn't very much part of the Tel Avivians' sort of culture. With the years, the sea status was changed. And today there's an amazing craving for the sea. You know, every flat that has a sea view is, you know, the price immediately goes high, and everybody wants to live next to the sea. The idea of the city planning is now to actually extend this promenade up to Herzliya on one hand and Jaffa on the other hand. And as a city, we're working on it for the last, I would say, 5 years already.
This openness to change reveals the modern character of the city and its inhabitants. Yet modern isn't really a word we associate with Israel, which makes me wonder, is Tel Aviv that different from the rest of the country? The rivalry between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv is a well-known reality. Journalist Daniel Ben-Simon has documented these tensions throughout his career. Now a member of parliament, He hopes to bridge the gap between the two cities. But this is no easy task.
Israeli politics are like a battlefield, and we're shooting at the ambulances. We suffer in Jerusalem, but it's a very Jewish suffering. We come to Tel Aviv, and we lose the suits. It's always warm. The people are so much more laid back. They enjoy life. Maybe they enjoy it a bit too much.
Geographically, only 70 kilometers separate the two cities. But culturally, they are worlds apart. Jerusalem is the center of religious life in Israel, while Tel Aviv is the heart of Judaism's more secular expression.
Tel Aviv is the open and bright side of Israel, the modern side. Jerusalem is the sad side, keeper of the past. It represents the persecuted identity of the Jews, the 5,000-year-old Jews. Here, since 1948, you have the new Jew, the Israeli Jew. In Jerusalem, he always remained the traditional Jew.
1948 was the year Israel became a country. Since the 1920s, the region had been under British administration, whose task it was to mediate the tensions between Arab and Jewish communities. But in 1947, the UN took over the reins and voted to create a territorial division that has been bitterly contested ever since.
The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has evolved for 100 years. Tel Aviv, although very secular, is part of that conflict. The youth of Tel Aviv, the seculars, are the better part of the army. At 18, they enter the military service. They come back at 21 or 22, go to university, and start a new life. Maybe Tel Aviv is the solution in this conflict. This is how life should be once we find peace. The solution is to find a compromise. We should be neighbors, and we should live in peace. We can become great neighbors, but both sides will have to work hard. The Palestinians have to try and forget what happened in 1948, and the Israelis have to make compromises. We have to divide the land, and like King Solomon, make a compromise. There are very few happy moments in Jewish history. The unhappy moments are in Jerusalem. Tel Aviv is like a country within a country, and I hope that one day all of Israel will become more like Tel Aviv, while keeping a bit of the emotion of Jerusalem. We can't pretend there's no history, and Jerusalem is our history. It gives the Jews the possibility of continuing to be Jewish.
The competition between the two cities still exists, but it's not stopping Tel Aviv from attracting Israelis from everywhere in the country, even Jerusalem. Yuval Ben-Ami and his family are among them.
I'm a Jewish Israeli. I was born in Jerusalem, but my parents decided to move here to the coast, where people are more liberal and open-minded. But as so many Israelis came to Tel Aviv, life here has become too expensive for most of us. And so I moved here to Jaffa, which is a bit less liberal. It's like a Jerusalem by the sea, but it's the real heart of Tel Aviv. Jaffa actually has almost 4,000 years of history, while Tel Aviv has about 100. Yet we call this city Tel Aviv Jaffa rather than Jaffa Tel Aviv. Why have we inverted this? The answer is politics. Ever since the creation of Israel, the country wanted to focus on Tel Aviv and make it the real city.
Over the last 70 years, Tel Aviv has overshadowed and engulfed Jaffa. But the smaller sister city has a long and rich history. A port city since the Bronze Age, it's been conquered by pharaohs, Jewish kings, and Alexander the Great. The Romans destroyed and rebuilt it. The Ottomans claimed it for 200 years. Napoleon also ransacked the city. It was reclaimed for a time by the Arabs and then lost to the British.
Jaffa is so old, it's even mentioned in the Bible and in Greek mythology. In the Bible, it's in the story of the prophet Jonah. And Greek mythology says that the princess Andromeda was rescued on that rock.
The date of its construction is lost in history, but the port of Jaffa is one of the world's oldest. Although change has washed over this place time and again, the land around the port is still home to the fishermen who make their living here.
We're now in Ajami, the charming but troubled neighborhood. I really feel that here the Arabs and the Jews coexist well, and that the real political problems are between the Arab people and the state. After the war in 1948, Ajami was the only place where the Jaffa Arabs could live. So they took the houses that were abandoned by those who fled. After a few years, the Israelis realized that this was a charming place by the sea. As the land belonged to the state decided to evict the families living in these houses, to destroy them and sell the land. And that created tension. Many families were forced to leave Ajami. And today, it's the same sad story that repeats itself. Many Tel Aviv Jews rarely come to Jaffa, and they don't feel the presence of the Arabs in daily life. In reality, there are only 20,000 Arabs left in Jaffa, and the population of the metropolitan area of Tel Aviv is more than 3 million. I'm very happy to live with this music. It reminds us it's time for prayer.
Not everyone practices their religion here. Jewish or Muslim, some find other things to do during prayer time.
400 years ago, there were people here that spoke Arabic, Turkish, and other Mediterranean languages. But the real identity of the place was Arabic for many centuries. Now it's an Arab neighborhood of Tel Aviv. Port cities are usually more welcoming because they see people of all origins, people who speak a different language. Jaffa is one of these cities. You can't consider Israelis as colonialists. Maybe they are semi-colonialist because Europe kicked them out, sent them elsewhere, and elsewhere was here. If we consider the 1948 war as an extension of the Second World War, we see that the Jews that came here are a displaced people. They, in turn, forced out the Arabs, and the tragedy is like a chain. Israelis are not a colonialist people because there is no homeland. I have nowhere to go if I decide to leave this place. I sometimes feel like a guest in my own country. My parents were born here and my grandparents arrived when they were children. But am I really from here? I live in Jaffa. I eat hummus. It's food from my home. When I go to Europe, I feel at home too, but not completely. I don't feel completely at home in either place. And maybe that's what being Jewish is. We can't rewrite history, but we can remember it. We can understand the hardships of others. We can try to be closer and ready for a better future in this region.
A better future. And in a part of the world where hostilities seem never-ending, here the Jewish and Arab communities live together peacefully. I wanted to feel the pulse of daily life in Tel Aviv. Hélène Bérubé, a French-Canadian correspondent, takes me through the Kerem market in the Yemenite neighborhood she now lives in. And lucky for us, she speaks Hebrew.
Initially, I came here to study. I had written a thesis on an author named Amos Oz. His books made me dream. I'm not Jewish, and I'm not connected with Israel. but my studies gave me the urge to come. I was supposed to be here for 2 months, but I never left. This is Kerem HaTeimanim, which means the vineyard of the Yemenites. The neighborhood was founded by Jews from Yemen who came here at the end of the 19th century, before the creation of Tel Aviv. The Jews who came here didn't come for political reasons like the Zionists. They came because of a Jewish messianism. They really wanted to be here for religious reasons. You can't see it just by looking at it, but this neighborhood is still very traditional. On Shabbat, it's very quiet and nothing much happens here. In the rest of Tel Aviv, you don't feel that. Life goes on like every other day. Here, it's just silence.
Shabbat is the 7th day of the Jewish week. The word literally means to rest in Hebrew. And that's exactly what people do here. It's one of the many elements of local life that Hélène has adopted.
This lady over here opens her kitchen to the public every Thursday and Friday. She just said, "My pleasure."
People here are more than just welcoming.
This is very good. Tel Aviv is the largest Jewish agglomeration in the world, yes, but it's also the most secular city in Israel. We say it's the opposite of Jerusalem. A bit of a cliché, but it's true. Jerusalem is heavy. They recently had a debate about a parking lot open on Shabbat. There was a demonstration and things turned sour. You would never have anything like that in Tel Aviv. Here, during Shabbat, life goes on. In Jerusalem, even banks are closed.
Within a country that struggles with violence and heartbreak, Tel Aviv is a paradox, an oasis of calm whose people take time to enjoy life. Perhaps more so, because they know just how precious it is.
We often talk about the Tel Aviv bubble, the country of Tel Aviv. We say it's a world within Israel, or that it just isn't Israel. If you want to go to Israel, you should go to a kibbutz, go to Ashdod, visit a moshav. Tel Aviv is often described in a stereotypical way, as the place where we drink coffee, we debate and reinvent the world, yet we do nothing at all. People think we're only concerned with having fun and being cool. The city drives us. It gives us the right to improvise. I asked Alon Castiel, a businessman friend of mine, "What exactly do you do? How would you describe yourself?" And he said, "You know, Helen, I'm an improviser." And that's how he described his job. And that made me smile because I realized just how Tel Avivian that was.
I asked Hélène to meet this Alon to see just what he can tell me about his city.
We are in Jaffa, just above the old port of Jaffa. That's the gentrification of this neighborhood that used to be like a slums, an Arab slums, but it's located right on the sea. So it's becoming one of the most luxurious neighborhoods in Israel, transforming really rapidly and living a situation that you have very rich people living with poor people on the same neighborhood.
Is Tel Aviv high speed or laid back? It seems to be both at once.
Yeah, both at once, but comparing to other cities in the world, I think you can take it more to high speed. People are really ambitious and love to work. Even when they enjoy, they do it with, motivation and in a rush. All the young people are really high motivation, I think. So you can say that it's more high speed. I mean, nightlife, the places are changing every several months. If you have a new place, a bar or a club, it's an old fashion already and nobody wants to go because it's old. It's bad for business, but it's good for the creativity of the city, I believe.
Is there an economic boom right now in Tel Aviv?
You can certainly feel now that it's booming. I mean, people spend, they work, everything is going well. Let's hope it stays like that.
There are nearly as many public companies in Tel Aviv as in New York.
Tel Aviv is the biggest contributor of public high-tech companies to the NASDAQ, for example, after the United States itself. You have a list of something like 100 high-tech companies that came from Tel Aviv, and they are listed on the stock exchange. It's a big contribution to the Israeli economy. They're bringing a lot of money.
Is Tel Aviv the business center of Israel?
Yeah, it's not a business center, it's the center. I mean, it's 98% of the economy, so it's not the heart, it's everything, the whole cake.
You were talking about the fact that cyclically there's a war here about every 10 years.
Every decade. This is the past. Let's hope that the future will change. I'm optimistic. Both of the communities understand that there is no other solution, that we have to separate as neighbors, good neighbors. And you can feel the drift into it, but it's very, very slowly because usually religion stops it and tries to take us back. But you can feel this transformation. I mean, but if you check it, even before the State of Israel, every decade we had a war. Small war, big war, important one, non-important, there are non-important wars.
Cyclical wars. Each decade, this seems unreal. But conflicts in this region do have a disturbing history of turning into war. The Arab-Israeli War in '48, the Suez Crisis in '56, the Six-Day War in 1967, followed by the War of Attrition until 1970, the Yom Kippur War in 1973, the First Lebanon War in 1982, and the second in 2006.
It's not a total war, it's not World War II. But if you ask any Israeli or Arab, will there be another war? 98% will say yes, of course. It's part of living in Israel. It's like winter and summer. There is nothing you can do. People are also getting tired of it. I mean, you cannot run your whole life waiting the conflict to burst. Let's hope it change. I'm optimistic. Many people understand the whole situation, and it can be brought to a pretty simple solution to separate that the Palestinians will take the West Bank and Gaza, Israel will leave East Jerusalem and the West Bank, and we'll just separate. Everything is understood. We have to take back the settlers, something like 50,000 settlers. That's what will happen for sure. It's only a question of how much blood and time it will take. I mean, and we're hoping that no one will block this situation, not the Hamas from the Palestinian side and the right-wing settlers in Israel. That's the hope of the majority of the Tel Avivians.
Is being Jewish, is it a religion here or a nationality?
Especially in Tel Aviv, it's nationality. I mean, you can feel that many times Jewish abroad are more religious than us here, because we are together, we are not afraid from anything, we are holding up each other. When you're abroad, you have to keep all the ceremonies to keep your nationality even alive. I mean, your connection to the other guy in a different neighborhood, I think that those ceremonies keep it alive. In Tel Aviv, everybody are together, so I think that we are less religious.
You have particular beaches here. You have Orthodox beaches where women go certain days and men go certain days.
Yes, and there used to be a big fight over it because it's kind of chauvinism and many issues with the religious people. The thing is that Jerusalem doesn't have a sea, so they come to our beach always. So you have one beach that it's under the name of Jerusalem Beach, that it's separated. But it's not a big problem because anyhow, religious people don't come to the beach on Saturday, and secular people use it mainly on Saturday, so it's good.
Everyone lives in peace.
You have to be careful. I mean, on Wednesday, if you're a guy, not to enter to the beach, but 5,000 women, religious women, you can see it.
All around Tel Aviv, I sense a vibrant and festive undercurrent, a result of its youthful character. As the local saying goes, we work in Haifa, we pray in Jerusalem, and we dance in Tel Aviv. That's because the city never sleeps. the night in Tel Aviv is as bright and vibrant as the day.
11 p.m. in Tel Aviv, that's very early. At 11, people start the evening among friends or with family. After that, they hit the streets in places like Neve Tzedek. Right now, the bars are still very quiet.
To experience the nightlife in Tel Aviv, I meet up with Ilan, a very active local. The first stop on our adventure, a fully packed Georgian restaurant.
Why is there security for the restaurant?
Because of it started when there was the explosion, so used to it, so it became, a habit. It's every place you have security.
So here begins my Tel Avivian night.
This is the quiet floor. Is it typical of Tel Aviv to be so vibrant?
This is actually a very quiet evening, but usually all the people are on the bar dancing and having fun. It's like a very loose place. You can do whatever you want here.
7 days a week?
7 days a week.
Bustling bars and restaurants are around every turn, but the nightlife here is driven by countless eclectic cultural events, like this impromptu short film festival.
Tel Aviv is a little city with a very, very special energy. It's an extremely dynamic city, with which we fall in love. What's unique here is that people go out every night. On a Tuesday at midnight, bars are full. We don't know where the people come from. I mean, they all work the next day. And it's not that we're slackers. The majority of people who live here are young, and most neighborhoods are very active. We reject the hardships because things are complicated enough as it is. We look for the lighter things, for entertainment. We want to have fun. It's the city of here and now.
I'm reminded that although it's Saturday night, tomorrow is a regular working day in Tel Aviv. Yet the streets are quickly filling, and the evening has just begun.
People come to Tel Aviv to relax. They come from the south, from Haifa, from Jerusalem. On weekends, they come from everywhere. When people hear about Tel Aviv in Israel, they mostly hear about bombings and things like that. But I feel safer here than anywhere else in the world. And when there's a bomb in Tel Aviv, we do our best to go out and party even more. We want to show that life is more important than death. Terrorism won't win. We'll continue to live. We love peace, and we love life.
A glimpse at the mood in this house, transformed into a bar, gives me a picture of what nightlife is like. People look at the evening as the start of a new day. And they live all out, stopping when and wherever they can.
There are several huge nightclubs, probably the best in the world because DJs from every corner of the world come here. You pay something like 20 shekels to get in, which is nothing. Going from place to place also shows our interest in diversity. When you get up in the morning, you may feel like wearing a new sweater or a new shirt. You may want to wear a skirt or pants. It's the same thing with bars here. You want to go out with your friends? It could be very cozy in a Neve Tzedek wine bar. You could go to a dance club until 3 a.m. and go to an after party. I don't know many places that have this many possibilities.
With a population 20 times smaller than New York City, the list of places and possibilities to keep me up all night is simply amazing. And one evening here is just enough to make me want more. Tel Aviv is more complex than I had imagined, bursting with youthful exuberance, but tempered with history and wisdom. The bubble is not completely immune to the problems that surround it. In fact, the local reality is what makes the people here embrace life to the fullest. There's an urgency to experience the excitement of living, and a patience to appreciate the little things. Perhaps the peaceful coexistence of its inhabitants is a sign of hope. In Tel Aviv, what happens tomorrow isn't as important as what's happening today. I leave here feeling that Tel Aviv is not only a city, but a state of mind.